All right, welcome back to Paris. Chris Chavez here with Karen Lesowitz, Mitch Dyer, Caitlin Hutchison, Sidious Mag, live from Paris, presented by ASICS. We are back after a electric night at the stadium. The rain didn't damper anyone's just feels, everything that was happening out there. It honestly made it for an even more dramatic and entertaining show. It was a very dramatic night at the track, obviously headlined by the women's 100-meter final, which is what we'll start off with, of course. This time around, I didn't rush out of the stadium, running to get back to these mics because, we didn't have Sha'Carri Richardson win, but major victory, historic victory for Julien Alfred from St. Lucia, the NCAA champion in the 100 and 200 meters from last year, who just missed a podium, finally gets her crowning moment. And this, I feel like, for the new track fan that's out there who just watched Sprint and was like, I want to start following these athletes, like, they're just like, wait, who is this person? Because they weren't in the show. Now, Julien Alfred, after crossing the finish line in 10:72, eighth fastest woman in history, raised her bib up in the air to kind of announce herself to the world. So the people who didn't know her name now know it, and they will know it for many years to come because she is still really young, so talented, and the stadium is going nuts. Sha'Carri Richardson, silver medal after a rough start to her final race, and then Melissa Jefferson with the race of her life to get a bronze medal. Caitlin, you were watching this one pretty closely. You are someone who's been super excited for Julien Alfred. What did you make of this race?
I have lots of things to say. So first of all, even my cousin, she was like, I didn't even expect for St. Lucia to win. And I'm like, Gail, I've got something to tell you. Because like you said, people who are casual track fans, they don't know, but baby, I know, because I was in the NCAA system for 6 years, and I know about Julien Alfred because when she was at Texas, baby, she was running everybody in the NCAA through the ringer. She was already really great when Abby and Faber were going at it a couple years ago. But then once both of them moved out, then Julien was like, okay, now is really my time to shine and rack up as many gold medals and records as possible. And that's exactly what she did. I don't know how many records and medals that she got, but she got all of them. And that's all that really matters. Then that same, one of the years before, she got all of that stuff, she ended up qualifying for the World Championships with St. Lucia. And this was back when St. Lucia didn't have no uniforms. So I was confused because I'm looking for Julien on the track during her first year in 2022 at the World Championships. And I'm like, why can't I see this girl? And she's running around in just a plain black kit because St. Lucia did not have anything. It was... we don't got nothing for you. I'm sorry, but we didn't expect for somebody so great to just be running up through our country, right? And it was kind of sad to see because I'm like, this girl is really talented. And watching her in 2022 during the World Championships was so interesting. And then also there was another championships going on that year too, afterwards, but she just didn't do as well. Even though she did really well in the collegiate system that particular year, it just didn't really translate outside of it. But everybody was still proud of her. And then she got her get back on her final year, her last year as an NCAA athlete, wearing the Texas uniform. Like I said, got all these records, got all these medals. And then St. Lucia finally got a uniform. And it was like, oh my God. This is legit now. Y'all are acknowledging the fact that Julien exists and that she is literally taking over this country. Julien for president, actually. And then it's to go from making it to these championships and not really being able to prove yourself in it to becoming an Olympic champion literally 2 years later is just mind-blowingly insane. And the reason why I'm not surprised that she was able to do this, the most obvious thing is that she literally won the World Championships in March. She is the 60-meter world champion. So everybody's like, she's a nobody, she this, she that. I'm like, y'all, she literally is one of the fastest women in the world. So that's why when I was thinking about my predictions, I was saying obviously, I do really want Sha'Carri to win, considering her story. I'm like, that would just be the cherry on top for you to get gold at your first Olympic championships. But I was like, there's only one person in the world right now that I truly see beating Sha'Carri if it ever happens, and it was Julien Alfred. And Julien Alfred put together the absolute best race of her life to just completely solidify history. So I'm not surprised. People who watch the NCAAs are not surprised. And then obviously, like you said, like every other track fan like knows who she is. But Sprint has to talk about her now. Like you can't just be like, oh yeah, like and she's the Olympic champion in like season 2, and they're like, why doesn't the Olympic champion have her own episode? Like,
do you think she crossed the line and Netflix was there? Like, hey, can we steal you for a second? Like, can you sign this? But she was so focused on the line. Did you see that? I think we saw Sha'Carri a little nervous. I mean, I think I saw some nerves in her. Rightly so. She had so much pressure on her. I mean, even how we saw her celebrate at the trials. I feel like getting here was such an emotional feat. I can't imagine, just the amount of pressure she had on. Do you think some nerves got to Sha'Carri? What do you think this means, for her?
I do want to say that, she did look nervous. And she looked nervous last year, too. But, like, she rightfully proved that, like, those nerves didn't mean anything because she ended up getting a gold medal. She put together the race of her life, went 10:65 or 10:67, and got herself a gold medal against her biggest competition, against Shelly, against Sharika, against everybody else. So that's when I was looking at her face. I'm like, yeah, she's obviously nervous, but we've been here before. We know what happens. Like, gold on the way. Like, she'll be perfectly fine. And then, unfortunately, like, that's not what ended up happening. And so I do think that the nerves might have gotten to her a little bit because usually what me and Jasmine have talked about in terms of, like, analyzing, like, Sha'Carri's phases, like, through her races and stuff at major championships, she does this thing where, like, she runs a really great first round. And so everyone's excited because they're like, okay, Sha'Carri is going to do the thing. She gets to the semifinal, and it's not super great. Like, it's not bad, but sometimes scary things happen. Last year at the World Championship, she got third in her heat. Remember, it's top 2 advanced. So she had to sit there and wait on time. Thankfully, she was running with the other fastest women in the world, so, like, she got in on time because that heat was fast in general. But, like, her second race is usually something that, like, leaves people a little worried, and it's typically because of her start. But then what usually happens is she gets to the final, and something clicks, and it's like, okay, I can't be sleeping in the blocks. Now let's go make it pop, see what happens. And unfortunately, that didn't happen this time. She slept in the blocks. 1087 is not slow, so it's okay. Like, yes, she got second, and Julien did beat her by a lot, but y'all, 1087 is not terrible.
Well, we didn't see her give up, right? I mean, I know at the trials, maybe it was a different situation with the 200. We saw her let up a little bit, and I don't think, as a fan, you don't always love to see that. I'm sure there were, maybe there was strategy, in contention there, but to me, we didn't see her give up. She got silver, and even that we're talking about it like this, like, oh, poor Sha'Carri, she didn't win. I mean, I think to not even make it, from what she's been through.
I think it's hard though because it's like I'm super excited for the fact that like she got silver. I think it is just disheartening though that like people are on social media being like, but damn, she got silver. And I'm like, do you know how hard it is to get an Olympic silver medal?
Yeah.
Like, do you know how hard it is to get a medal in general? Do you know how hard it is to get there? And like, yes, she is the world champion, but I mean, some of the greatest women that we've ever seen, like Shelly and Sharika, baby, they have fallen short of gold as well. And they are still some of the fastest and most amazing women to ever run through an Olympic championship. Elaine Thompson-Herah as well. I mean, she's got like 25 billion gold medals from an Olympic championship. But regardless, the fastest women that we've ever seen, sometimes they fall short, but not fall short terribly. Like, they still get a medal. So, like, I don't think her getting silver is a bad thing. But I think with the fact that this is the Olympics and track and field is, like, transcending as it always does every 4 years, there's a lot of, like, stupid discourse getting thrown around without really recognizing, like, how difficult and how amazing it is to actually be able to accomplish something like this.
Let's touch on Melissa Jefferson and just how big of a performance this has been for her, because it's like she was the U.S. champion back in 2022,
yes,
right? And then from there, last year, kind of was like, what was her first big pro season, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So some learning curves there, switches training groups, joins Dennis Mitchell's group, part of the U.S. or the block sweep at the U.S. Olympic trials. And it just seems like each time out, she's just getting better and better. And these experiences that she's had on these stages, I feel like, are only adding to her confidence and proving it to herself that she belongs. And now, soon, I think if you're her, you just got to start thinking, it's like, I could beat, even Sha'Carri or Julien Alfred. Like, that moment is also, we're close to that.
And the thing is that I think she already believes it. And not even on, like, a jealousy thing, because obviously, like, her and Sha'Carri are teammates. I don't think she thinks of it in a way of, like, yeah, I could beat my teammate. with her, the first time, so when I first started following her story, I think I like knew about her in 2021, but everybody who like was paying attention to like NCAA track in 2022, they were like, oh, like this is Melissa's year. Like when you talking about people that's gonna win the 60, win the 100, win the 2, like that's who you were talking about. Everybody else definitely was gonna give her some competition, but you know what I'm saying? And then it was wild because she didn't do well at the outdoor NCAA championships in 2022. Everybody was like, okay, what happened to Melissa? She's getting like 7th, 8th place. Like, what the hell is going on? And then a couple weeks later, she makes it out to USA's and I'm talking to her and she's like, I really believe I can win this. And everybody's like, huh? And I'm just sitting here like, I don't know. Like, I believe this girl. Like, I know we got Aaliyah Hobbs and Sha'Carri and everybody else, but like, something about this girl wearing this coastal uniform got me a little fired up. And so while everybody was kind of just like having their own like opinions and like thoughts or whatever, she ended up going out there and she got gold. And it was like, oh my God, with a coastal uniform across her chest, fresh out of college, put all that collegiate athletes be tired to the side and really went out there and did her thing. And then, like you said, last year was like her first true year being pro. I think she was with Carl for a while. Coach Goodman, that was her coach at Coastal, but then he ended up getting a job at USC. So she found somewhere else to go. And now she's training with literally world record holders, freaking world champions, Olympic champions. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. So this race in particular, well, one, your heart goes out to Marie-Josée Tallou, who looked great in the rounds, and then I think something must have happened where she pulled up a little bit injured, finishes last in this race. But coming into this one, there was like a dramatic, like 90 minutes beforehand where I just see, like, they have these TVs set up in front of like the media tribune where you can kind of just see the start list and they're just kind of refreshing constantly. It's live results. And for the heat that Sha'Carri and Shelley-Ann and Julien Alfred were all in together, all of a sudden it says DNS next to Shelley-Ann Fraser-Price's name. I cook up the graphic, fire off the tweet, and then all of a sudden...
Were you like scared to press send?
A little bit, because I was like, I wonder if this is like a technical glitch. And so, but the first thing I did was I DM'd it in our group chat, just sort of like being like, Shelley-Ann Fraser-Price DNS, and then we all kind of just reacted to that. And then like a minute later, pumped out the graphic, and seeing just kind of everyone catch on to that, it erupted, and no one quite knew exactly what had happened. And I don't think like we've seen an official statement from Shelley-Ann Fraser-Price. Like, she usually posts stuff on her Instagram stories like after races, and nothing's been up yet. But the drama in this one, and I was joking twice today that the Netflix scriptwriters are like have a trick up their sleeve for both just like Noah Lyles not winning his, for heat, and
the
then
Breaking Bad like scriptwriters coming back.
But then when
I really hope there's not a curse going on.
When we were sitting at lunch, I just see this video on Twitter of Shelley-Ann essentially begging the officials to let her onto the warm-up track.
And the same thing happened with Sha'Carri too. Sha'Carri was literally sitting on the curb.
Yeah, which honestly, like, this is not a conspiracy theory or anything like that, but
I'm interested.
I'm curious.
I think somebody
Mitch really perked up over
I
here.
think somebody made a call.
Here's another thing to just kind of think about, and we don't have any answers because apparently the 100-meter press conference, Julien Alfred was there, and Sha'Carri and Melissa are maybe you got pulled into drug testing or something like that, but it's getting late. I don't know if they're gonna do a press conference tonight, so we may not get answers on this for another day or so if Sha'Carri addresses the media. But I'm curious how like that affected her warm up and preparing for the race. I'm sure it's like not, you don't want to be stressing about getting onto the warm up track moments before the race. If that had any sort of like, effect on her before she actually stepped on the track. But there's this massive confusion because both of them, I don't know if they're staying in the Olympic Village, but typically the teams travel from the village on a team bus, and they're able to get onto the warm-up track and clear through security. But you can't just be someone walking up to the gates and being let in. But apparently that had been the case the first couple days. Maybe security tightens. That's one thing we're kind of learning, Mitch and I, is just sort of like you'll talk to one official or like, security guard about something, and one day they'll send you this way, the other day they'll send you a different way. And with Shelley-Ann, like, she's Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce. Like, you don't even have to look at the credential. You know who she is when she's walking up. I'm sure there's a massive group of people around her wouldn't let her in. And so she's 37 years old, and she's been always very particular about just sort of how much her body can take and the preparation it needs to be race ready. Not getting a proper warm-up, I'm sure probably throws that into a flux. And then the Jamaica Observer reported that she had some sort of hamstring discomfort and decided to not start the race. One of the Australians who was in the heat said she wasn't even in the call room, right, Mitch?
She said she didn't exactly know what had happened. I mean, I think she was looking for answers as well, like to talk from the other side of it. Like, she probably looked at it as a fan, so she was pretty excited to see Shelley and race against Shelley. And then, just as far as I know, they're in the call room and she's not there. No explanation, no real rhyme or reason as to why she wasn't there. So I'm sure Sha'Carri and Julien Alfred, because it was such a loaded semi-final, would be of the same. You've seen the video here on the screen.
If you're watching on YouTube, you can see that's Shelley-Ann pleading to this bus driver of exactly just sort of like, they're not letting me in. And it's absurd. Sha'Carri Richardson sitting on the curb. Ridiculous. And like, I hope we get answers as to just like what exactly happened to this, because that is not the way for Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce to go out, the 8-time Olympic medalist,
right, in
her final Olympics, doesn't even get the chance to compete in the semifinals and in the final, where, you know, there was a good Michael Johnson tweet earlier today where it's like, you know, no matter what happened today, nothing would affect her legacy. She's already done so many great things. It could only add to it. And it's a shame because there's also so many question marks around Jamaica's 4x1 team, where they're not even, I think, close to being in contention for the 4x1 gold medal. So, you know, all these people giving Sha'Carri Richardson grief for not bringing home a gold and taking a silver, it's ridiculous. She's going to get a golden moment potentially with the 4x1, and that'll be great. This 4x1 team that the U.S. is going to field is going to be all stars. But yeah, it's so disappointing that we didn't get to see Shelley-Ann Fraser-Pryce out there today.
I think the most insufferable part that's going to come out of this is the people who are going to make the statements that are like, well, Julien or like Sha'Carri didn't deserve it because like Shelley wasn't racing, or like Julien didn't deserve it because Sha'Carri wasn't at her best, or like whatever the case is. Like, people are just going to make the most outrageous statements. And it's like, I hope that like what happened with Sha'Carri and Shelley isn't because of like complete and total like negligence, but like regardless, unfortunately, like the situation of like who was in the final was who was in the final, and like those are the people that had to line up and those are the people that had to race. But do I want whoever is responsible for what happened to Sha'Carri and Shelley to get punched in the face? Absolutely. Because how you got the two most famous track and field athletes sitting in front of your face and like, well, I can't let you through. Who is impersonating to be Shelley and Sha'Carri? Like, be so serious.
Yeah. I do think, though, this isn't me being on the side of the officials. But I am just saying, we've all had
typical Karen.
Like, yeah, you know, I got to live up to the name here. Yeah, did they speak to the manager? Did they even try? But I just think we've all had a high school coach, a college coach that upholds a standard of no one gets special treatment. And I'm not saying they knew they needed to be on the bus. I also blame the officials if they've gotten in this way and then all of a sudden they're cracking down. I think that's wrong as well. There needed to be a precedent set. I think
somebody
there's a ton of unknowns.
Beat, bro. Like, somebody needs to, like, I know there's a lot of unknowns, but like, regardless, just from that video alone, somebody needs their ass beat. Like, I'm so sorry, but like, no, I'm like, but seriously, it's like, if it was one way the entire time and you don't tell people who only know the one way that it's something different, what are they supposed to do? Also, at the end of the day, they're athletes, they have their credentials. What else would you need from them? Yeah. Because the only difference is that they would be on a vehicle as opposed to being on their feet and walking through the gate. So it's not clicking for me. Like, I'm pissed.
Yeah. I imagine it's a security measure. Like, I just imagine they do that.
I think that's
for control. What she's gonna do? Blow up
it's the Olympic Games. Like, it's a different beast. Seriously, the security around there is crazy. Yeah, I'm not saying it's fair that they haven't got let in, but like, I guarantee you, somewhere at some time in some email or some text, there would be something that's sent out being like, guys, we've changed the rules. Like, I guarantee they don't do anything at these games without warning. Now, it's easy to miss. Like, we get emails all the time about things that are changing or rules or whatever. And I know that, like, maybe it was her manager. Maybe it was the manager of Jamaica. Maybe it was the manager of USA. Maybe someone missed it. I don't know. Awful that they didn't get let in. But, like, even I was, like, a journalist was texting me today asking if there was a bus incident yesterday for an official and they'd changed the way that the officials could get in. So maybe it stemmed from that. And they were like, all right, we need to have more precaution about how people get in. I don't know. Like, I think it's
There's a lot of speculation right now.
Yeah, like, that's not confirmed. But my
Somebody
point
start
is that,
confirming
like,
stuff now.
yeah, it's like, it is the Olympic Games. It is very, like, airtight. Security there is so tight. I can't be mad at an official for doing their job, but you probably
Caitlin
do
is.
look at
It's
them.
okay.
Yeah.
You can be the nice guy.
Yeah, I
Whatever
mean-
official that was,
Come meet me.
I'm gonna see you tonight.
Yeah. One little funny nugget about the security is, Midge and I have both had this happen to us, is that when we're like, stadium prices are expensive for
Oh, yeah.
trying to get any sort of bottle of water or whatever it is. So
Oh.
what Mitch and I do is we stop at like just this shop and pick up bottles of water or whatever it is on our way in. And they make you like take a sip of what you're bringing in,
Yeah.
like in front of, like as you go
So
through
they can
security,
see it.
so they can see it's
That's
like, all right.
mob stuff.
It's
Yeah.
weird.
And I was
Well,
like-
You drink it.
I went in.
No, you drink it.
Yeah, I went in
it
yesterday
first.
with a can of Red Bull, and they wouldn't let me leave until it was done. And I was like, "This isn't a chug thing. This is like, I'm gonna span this over 20 minutes." And the guy was like, "No, you're gonna drink it right now." And
That's
I was
why you're
like,
so fired up
Okay,
about
I
that.
would die.
yeah.
Sounds
I was
very
like,
under
"That's
those
that's
very
great. I can
sadistic.
hear my heart, but that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad that we have that. But they are like
Yeah. It's different rules.
tight. Yeah, Chris got yelled at because he didn't take his laptop out of his bag. The
Yeah,
chick was
so then-
Take the
upset.
laptop.
Yeah, it was like
out of the
TSA.
bag.
So
Chris
then-
kicking his shoes
Take
off.
it
Yeah, so then the
off.
second time around, I took my shoes off and everything,
Yeah.
and it was like, all right, wand me.
Yeah, he actually went through like this.
Actually, we're gonna need
Wand
to strip
me.
search you.
Yeah. All right,
Crazy.
let's move on over to the mixed 4x4 final, which, man, was epic.
Whew.
Just a couple days ago, World Athletics announced that for 2025, they're not going to end the meet with the 4x4. And today reminded me, is like the 4x4 is just like this. This reminded me why it's such a great event. Even though this was the mixed, we've given the mixed 4x4 so much shit on this show for so long that
I
like
think every track
today-
and field fan has since the day of its
I
creation.
think today it kind of had its first like good moment, and the Americans came into this one very confident, talking about like, oh, we're gonna, yesterday Vernon Norwood was saying it's like, and we might do it again tomorrow about breaking the world record.
I mean, that was
And
close.
wasn't the case. They led for a lot of it, but Team Netherlands decided to put this girl named Femke Bol on the anchor leg, and this
some
girl, she's
random
not
chick.
just a girl,
Some rando.
she is a legend.
Can I
and
talk about this legend, please?
47.9 on the anchor?
That's crazy.
We're gonna get back to Team USA in this winning, but I have some things to say about Femke Bol because I got problems with a very specific group of track and field fans, Chris. Okay,
Okay.
let me tell you something. So
Be careful
everybody-
what country you pick a fight with right now.
it's
Swing.
not. But the crazy thing is that it's not a particular country.
Okay.
It's just groups of people, and they're just like, well, Femke's not sit. They just think Femke is like not good, and I'm like, so you telling me a girl who has 3 world records is the only other woman on the planet to run 50-point in the hurdles, goes to championships and runs 3 races. She runs the mixed 4x4, the regular 4x4, and the 400-meter hurdles. Like, that girl shows up for her and her team. And you're going to tell me that she's trash because she's not Sydney? First of all, I mean, whatever you want to speculate about the altitude of that meet that she ran at, but like regardless, on World Athletics, it says her PR is 0.3 seconds off of Sydney's PR, which is the world record. And I don't care what nobody got to say. I still have Sydney as my gold medal favorite, but like I think Femke is in the position to be able to put pressure on Sydney. And it makes me so mad that people look at this woman who was just split 47-9. I think Chris said the last time that somebody did something like that on the 4x4 was like the 80s or something. Why do you think that she is incapable of giving one of the greatest people alive a run for her money? Because way before it was Femke and Sydney, it was Delilah and Sydney. And it was a stretch of like 6 races where every time those two girls lined up, it was a world record on the line each and every time. And before Sydney started to like really take off, Delilah was like on that butt. Okay, so everybody look at Femke and understand that she is not no scrub, okay? When you get 3 world records and when you become the next woman to run 50 point in the 400-meter hurdles, then you can tell me something. But stop playing with this girl like she a nobody.
So as you were watching that final leg, what was your confidence level like as an American fan? Because we had Caitlin Brown, and then her Arkansas teammate Amber Anning was literally right behind her, also closing the gap for Team GB. But yeah, so Anderson and I were watching this thing, and he was saying, it's like, no, that's too big of a gap for Femke to make up. And then
that was his first problem.
And I was like,
she got out pretty slow. I mean, it looked like she took her time to build up into it. I also think that's just her stride. I think she makes it look that easy.
And Anderson, his take did not age well because that gap kept getting smaller and smaller, and Femke Bol was surging. And then with the final, what was it, like in the final 100 meters is when she just reeled everyone in. And Mitch has a video on his phone of Anderson and I watching this thing from the stands. You have 2 happy Americans, and then suddenly like our heart just gets pulled out from us. And then at the same time, like, they're still just like, holy crap, like, I can't believe that just happened. The IOC won't let you see that video ever, so it's just stuck on our phones.
Yeah.
But what was your reaction as you saw it happen?
The first thing is that when I saw Femke cross that line, I said, bro, she is on a revenge tour. She was pissed about what happened last year. I don't think she was like, I'm gonna burn this place to the ground, but it was very much like, she's sad because Femke, that's what I love about Femke. Like, and this is no shade to Sydney, but Sydney comes to run her race and she goes about her business. It's very much Sydney's world. I'm not worried about the rest of y'all. Femke is worried about everybody, including herself. That girl is so attached to her teammates, and she understands like what her capabilities mean for the group as a whole. So when she's in a situation to continue to like provide the best version of herself and that doesn't happen, then like she's heartbroken because she's like, I love y'all love me, you're great, I'm great, and like I couldn't do my job. And so when she fell last year, ended up getting her squad DQ'd and a whole bunch of other stuff, she was really taking it hard, but you know, like Leaky was taking care of her. But it was like, okay, like I'm about to come get my get back. And like, yes, she obviously did. She ended up winning the 400-meter hurdles in Budapest, and then doing a really stellar job in the 4x4 as well. I think they ended up winning. But in this particular situation where it's like, I get to run it back with the USA for the 4x4, when y'all was hawking me down, now I'm gonna hawk you down. And you gonna understand what it's like for this to happen to you. Thankfully, Caitlin didn't fall. But like, yeah, Femke was not playing. But it was also very scary too, because I'm watching Caitlin and I'm like, wait a minute. Every stride that Femke takes, like, it's just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. But I'm like, I got faith. You know, Caitlin 19. Caitlin knows what she's doing. Caitlin good. And then Femke just snatched it, and now I'm sad. So,
yeah. I mean, well, you touched on it. You know, Femke to me is like an insane talent also for her country. I mean, she's putting it on the line. She's doing 3 events. How do you think this fares with Sydney? I mean, I feel like you're very into this rivalry now. How do you think this fares with her doing, you know, a little bit more work on the track?
The thing is that, like, I don't think Sydney cares.
No.
And like I said,
she's sleeping soundly right now.
It's not even in like a disrespectful fashion, but like Sydney is just a very reserved individual. And I'm not saying that to say like she's a selfish person and not that she doesn't want to go out there and like do a whole bunch of stuff for USA, but like, she's probably had talks with her and her coaches where just like, it's not necessary. You're in a completely different league of your own. If you do all this extra stuff, like, that's cool, but like, what's the point? Like, focus on yourself, go about your business, and don't have things to stress about. Like, I can't say that's exactly what they're saying, but like, I'm assuming that that's kind of what it is along the lines. And then also like USA as a country is just so very deep that like, you don't need Sydney doing everything under the sun. Like, it would be fun, but like, the Netherlands, like they have Leaky and they have a couple of other women and men that are like really great, but like the depth is nowhere near the same. And so I think that there is a lot of like availability to have more fun and have more experimentation when you're on a team and you're running for a country that doesn't have that many people to pick from in the first place.
All right, let's touch on Team USA in this one and where things kind of went wrong.
Didn't go wrong, Chris. They did a great job.
307, like it's a little slower than yesterday.
It's still better than the previous world record, though. See, that's the Chris.
But I'm looking at these splits. Like
It was no, like, but see, like, you saw, I think, but they
Fight
didn't
'em.
do bad though. Like,
I kind of want to say, I think Quincy Wilson could have been the third leg. Bryce Deadman 44-7. I don't think that really cut it today.
it didn't, but like, they still ran really close to the world record from yesterday, and both
But
of the
they
times.
thought that they could run faster even yesterday.
But like, here's the thing though. Like, it sucks that they didn't win because for me it was like, okay, you run the world record yesterday. You don't like unless it gets down to that point. You don't need the world record again. Just win. But unfortunately, when Femke Bol is, you know, who she is, you're not getting past that. Like, she just ran her race, and so personally, like, yes, Bryce ended up running 44-7, but like, I don't know. I just feel like there's no reason to nitpick it. Like, it was better than the world record from last year. It was close to the world record that they ran yesterday. But like, Femke is who Femke is, and like sometimes you just get your ass beat.
Yeah.
Well
said.
I'm clouded by my fandom of Quincy Wilson, but also just sort of like
We got Quincy
him running-
goggles.
Yeah.
I love little cousin, yes.
But him running 45-10 at New Balance Nationals back in June, yeah, that's his. I think his fastest 4x4 split, unless he did something crazier at Penn.
Hasn't he ran a 44?
Yeah,
open?
I think it was at
Oh, not
Penn.
open, but yeah.
But and so like my thinking is like that was high school Quincy, the man we've seen grow up within the past
he's
like man and a
still
half.
16.
Yeah, but still like that Quincy at New Balance Nationals is not the Quincy that we have on our hands now, and it just gives me further confidence. I think like if we had one substitution to make, in retrospect, looking at this now, it probably should have been Quincy for Bryce in the final, and maybe we get a little bit closer. I still think Femke Bol was going to run down anyone.
So
but
that's the thing. It's like, even if you switch them out, like, we was
like,
screwed
we would have
anyway.
lost
Like,
307.5 versus 307.43. But anyway. We need our
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So here is the
we
thing.
have
Sydney.
a Femke, but
Here-
she's not going to do it.
No, actually, so this is the big problem with the mixed 4x4, and for the reason why silver for the United States, the only people we could kick is ourselves. For none of our stars, like actually, like the top three. Yes, I understand they have to prioritize their individual race,
But
but
and see, I don't even like that too, because if there's one person who is just like absolutely proven that like they can do it, like, it's Femke. Because I mean, yeah, we can have the hypotheticals about like, well, if she didn't run the rounds of her 4x4s and stuff, would she be faster in her finals? But like, regardless, she still runs super fast every single time, and she continues to get faster year after year after year at every major championship. So I don't like the BS of like, well, we have to focus. It's like, yes, but you got somebody across the water who has the same mentality as you, but is also still running
Putting it
the
on for their
races of her
country.
life. Exactly. So I'm like, I don't.
how
I
much
don't
does your
really
country
understand-
mean to you, actually?
I
Wow.
don't think a lot
That's
of
a big
people
goal,
are
yeah.
going to say they like America that much. But I think the other
I
thing
don't.
is I think the other thing is too is like we were talking to Grant about this
got a point.
at Olympic trials. I was like, what? I don't understand why people like why y'all don't like do more. Not that I like impressing y'all to like do more, but it's like y'all literally was running event after event after event in college, was doing everything under the sun as high schoolers. Like, why is it from like the transition to like being in college and literally running 4 major championships a year, 2 indoor and 2 outdoor, and now you guys are pro, and it's like, but I can only focus on 2 championships a year, and I can only race once a month. And I don't understand the difference, especially like I said, when you look at Femke, it's like she's running everywhere all the time, doing everything. And I understand everybody's bodies is different, but for those who went through the NCAA system and dominated the NCAA system, I don't understand like why it doesn't translate. And it's probably just because like I'm not an athlete in that situation.
All right. If this was ESPN's first take, what would a thing Mo have run in that anchor?
46 seconds.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's like, now that I was thinking about it, sitting here, I was like, oh, who would have been a pretty good counter to like Femke Bol? And I was like, wait a second.
We only have
did
two
leave
counters.
a thing Mo at home, but it's like, you know what? I can't go back on my whole, thinking of that the trial system we have is fair. So we'll let Femke have this gold medal. But I honestly like major
she'll
kudos to the
appreciate
Netherlands.
that.
Yeah.
She'll love that.
All in all, kind of joking because the Netherlands, like major kudos to them for pulling this gold medal off because they also did lose like one of their key 400 guys. And so these other
And
guys
was
did
this
have
close to the record too.
Yeah. So these guys had to step it
quite
up.
absolutely.
So putting my American pride aside.
Yeah, you just said you hated America.
I didn't say I hate America. I'm just saying we have an election coming up in a couple months, and we'll
He's
see
preparing-
how
he's
the state of our
preparing for
country
the
in a
Civil
little
War,
bit.
guys.
So we'll see what happens there. But
you hate the people in America.
no, enough politics for this podcast. We'll save it for my other one
are you
that I'll
voting
launch.
for?
All right, that's enough on the 4x4 mixed 4x4. Let's
Get into some
almost
scary
went there.
areas.
let's move on to the men's shot put
Yeah.
because we're all big throws guys here. In this one,
I've
Girls.
always said that about myself.
I'm a
Mac-
man.
Yeah. Karen? Huge
yeah,
throws guy.
sorry about that,
Huge
Mac. I
throws
didn't
guy.
give you enough
Yeah,
of a
yeah,
warning.
Massive
But
throws guy.
Mac, if you can get Pauly Throws on the line, we'll have him unpack this with
I
us.
love that guy.
But coming into this one, the podium at the last two Olympic Games has been Ryan Crouser, Joe Kovacs, and Tom Walsh. And so this year, Leo Fabri from Italy, who's a huge dude.
Yeah.
Like, you've seen him in person, right?
He's a monster. Yeah, he is carved out of marble, that bloke. He's huge.
That guy has disrupted the throws and beat Ryan Crouser at the London Diamond League. So a lot of eyes were on him. Tom Walsh not having the best season, but still, like, this has been a great year for the men's shot put. And there were question marks coming into this one around Ryan Crouser. But I think one thing we learned last year when he won in Budapest after the blood clots in his leg is that
Never
this
doubt
man
Ryan Crouser.
can't be broken. And so he launches a 2290 throw, and just the crowd went nuts. Where they have the shot put is like right in front of like this huge French fan section.
Oh, yeah.
And they were just there was no French shot put thrower in the final, but it was loud as if there was one. So Crouser for a while was just sitting at the top, and I'll let our very own Pauly Throws
Is he
take
here?
it from here as to just sort of like beyond Ryan Crouser, the dramatics behind that for silver and bronze ended up getting really interesting. So now we bring on our resident
Yes!
throws expert,
So much better than me
Paul
holding the phone.
Mahoney. Paul, what did you make of this competition?
It was slightly frustrating in the second half, just given the conditions and how everyone was falling. And there were, I think, 4 legal throws in the final 3 rounds across all 8 throwers. Granted, one of them was one of the clutchest throws in shot put history. But the first half was really exciting. The second half was kind of frustrating. I can only imagine how frustrating it was for the actual throwers, especially heart is broken a little bit for Leonardo Fabri. Finishes, I think he was in 5th. He had a mark of 21.70 that they kept saying it was a foul, and then it wasn't a foul. So I don't know where he actually ended up. But his season was just so good. And to have it end off the podium where, you got to just wonder what would happen in normal conditions. But Ryan Crouser, man, I tell you, that guy's good. That guy's good.
He's pretty good.
All right, so take us through sort of where Joe Kovacs sat through the competition, because it wasn't looking good for my guy for a bit, and then the rain started coming down. Everyone around him was slipping and sliding in that ring, and we needed one big one from the big fella.
It really was not looking good. He was sitting in 4th for most of the competition behind Peyton Otterdahl, and then Rajindra Campbell, who ended up holding on for the bronze. And, I had kind of counted out that anyone was going to be able to overcome the conditions in the final 3 rounds. He took his 2 throws in the 4th and the 5th round were both fouls, I believe, and they were like mid to low 21s. So good marks considering how wet it was. But I was like, I don't think he's going to be able to produce something in these conditions enough to overtake. Otterdahl sat at 22:01. I think he was in bronze. And then that 6th round, he steps in the ring. The ring, they did do a pretty good job, it looked like, at least, of drying it off before that 6th round. So it looked like the conditions were slightly better there. But he steps into that ring. He goes 22-15 on the dot, ties Rajindra Campbell, but he takes the win on count back. Rajindra Campbell only had one other legal throw that I believe was 20 meters on the dot. And Joe had a couple in like the 21:40 range, maybe 21:70 was his best, aside from the 22:15. And now Joe Kovacs this is his 8th straight global championship outdoors on the podium. He's been on every one since Beijing 2015. And, I kind of said in the preview articles that I wrote, I was saying this about Gong Li Zhao, who's a women's shot putter from China, who's been on every podium except Rio since the Beijing Olympics. So even longer, in 2008. And Joe Kovacs is right up there with that level of consistency and just landing on podiums every single time. And this, he said after, I think, that this is like the silver medal he's proudest of, given the conditions, everything he had to overcome. And it's just, Joe Kovacs is one of the greatest athletes in track and field history. It was so cool to see him come away with the silver here.
So Peyton Otterdahl, part of the A6 family. This has been just a great season for him in general, and it's been building each time out that he was sitting in that medal position for a while. A little heartbreaking at the very end, but it's honestly something that he should be proud of.
Yeah, I believe this is his best finish at a major. I want to say he was 5th in Eugene, maybe. But yeah, he's been so good this year. And even in this competition, each of his first 3 throws was an improvement. I think he went from like 21.6 to 21.8, and then eventually 22.01, I believe, is where he ended at. And, he's one of the ones that I think was more affected by the rain. And at first, before Joe had his final throw, I was like, oh, it's kind of convenient for him that the rain has stopped anyone from coming back on him in these final 3 rounds. And even if he only ends up at 22.01, that'll still somehow be on the podium. And then that ended up not being the case. It does stink a little bit, but, he's younger than Kovacs and Crouser both are. And the progression he's seen this year is just incredibly encouraging for what's to come for him.
Can you run through today's decathlon final? Because there were a couple surprises, and your face just lit up.
Yeah, so the biggest surprise was in the 8th event, the pole vault. Damian Warner, the reigning Olympic champion, world champion from Eugene. No, that was Kevin Meyer. Never mind. Ignore that. The reigning Olympic champion, Damian Warner, he no-heighted at 5'6" or 460. I'm kind of curious as to if it was just a fatigue thing, because he is not the best pole vaulter necessarily. He passed on 440 and 450, though. So he willingly came in at 460, missed all 3. It didn't look like he was particularly close on any of them. The same fate befell Sander Skotheim, who is a Norwegian decathlete who had a really great day one. He was looking really good. He also no-heighted. And so pole vault really just shook up what the podium could have looked like. And then, Markus Rooth just kind of coming out of nowhere with a crazy day too. The big game changer for him was he PB'd by 20 centimeters in the pole vault. He came in as a 5'10" vaulter. He left today as a 5'30" vaulter. And honestly, that was one where I had kind of stopped paying attention to the pole vault, because I was like, okay, Leo went out at 5 meters flat. Like, that's okay. And then I checked back like 20 minutes later, and I saw Markus Rooth was now only like 170 behind Leo, and he's way better at javelin and the 15 than Leo was. So that kind of surprised everyone, I think. And then he hit another PB in javelin. Leo didn't have a great day in javelin. And then, so when you're ahead of Leo Neugebauer heading into the 1500, you're in a pretty good spot typically, especially because Rooth is a sub 430 1500 runner. I think he's run 429 before. I'm not sure what he ended up running today, but it was just enough to beat Leo, I know. And yeah, that's the first Norwegian Olympic medal in the event since 1920.
Wow.
First,
Wow.
and they won gold there too. So it's the first Olympic title for a Norwegian decathlete in over a century. And he's only 22. Like, it's pretty crazy that he's scoring like a shade under 8,800 points. Even Leo, you think he's kind of young because he's still in college. I think Leo's 24, I want to say. Somebody should fact
Yeah,
check
he's
me on
24.
that. Yeah. And so this guy is younger than Leo. And, he doesn't have that 89-60 that Leo got at NCAAs, but he just won an Olympic title.
They're going to be talking about this guy snapping that streak like the way we talk about Matt Centrowitz and ending the 108-year drought like the Chicago Cubs when he won gold. Big day for Norwegian decathlon fans. Paul, take us through the women's triple jump competition where the U.S. did manage to get a medal.
First off, I just want to say go Gators, go Jasmine Moore. First Olympic medal for a U.S. female triple jumper in history. We now have one medal at each of the Olympics, World Outdoors and World Indoors, and I believe it's 3 different women, so that's a fun fact. But yeah,
It is a
Thea
fun fact,
LaFond
Paul.
of Dominica won Dominica's first ever Olympic medal, and it was an Olympic gold. She broke her own national record in the process, jumping 15:02. I believe they were dealing with pretty significant headwinds most of the night, and the runway was really wet. So there were lots of factors going against these women, but a lot of them still jumped really well. Shanika Ricketts won her 3rd global silver, which kind of stings because, 3 silvers. Hopefully one of them would be a gold at some point, but 3 silvers are still nothing to scoff about. And so she picked up her 3rd. I think she got it in Doha and Eugene as well. And then, Jasmine Moore comes out with the bronze. Like I said, first American medal in the event. Leonis Perez Hernandez of Cuba, she finished in 4th, I believe. And her last jump it really stinks to see because she ended up at like 1450 something, but I think she was 25 centimeters behind the board.
Wow.
So if she would have been like any closer to the board, she might have had a chance at moving ahead of Jasmine Moore into that medal position. But yeah, that was just kind of unfortunate to see, but also for a U.S. and Florida Gators student, I'm not complaining about it.
It's a good day to be a Florida Gator.
Oh, yeah. It's always a good day to be a Florida Gator, Chris.
Anything else you want to hit on from some of these other prelims, or what should we be looking forward to tomorrow in the field events?
Ooh, that is an excellent question. I think men's hammer, I think that final might be tomorrow. I know there's like one throwing final. Yes, it is men's hammer tomorrow. Ethan Katzberg, watch him. He is ridiculous. He had the farthest throw in 16 years earlier this year. He threw 84.38, I think it was, in Kenya. And his average performance this year is better than any other man in the field's best performance this year. He is dominating, and he's only 22. He's also 22 like Markus Rooth. And so he had the best throw in qualifying yesterday by like 2.5 meters. So if you aren't watching Ethan Katzberg, what are you doing? That's my
All right,
pitch.
Paul. Well, thanks for the throws and field events roundup. We'll bring you back on tomorrow. It is nice to see that there's a lot of sunlight out here. It is just past midnight here in Paris, but keep up the great work. You are an invaluable resource right now for us, helping man the social channels and everything. So keep it up, and we'll chat with you tomorrow.
Love it, Paul.
Pace.
All right, keep up the great work, guys.
All right. That is
What a guy.
Paul Mahoney, our resident big throws guy,
Love that guy.
and field events
Big
expert.
throws.
The thing that blows my mind about Paul each time is just how he rattles off so many numbers.
He's built for radio, that boy. He's got a great announcing voice, speaks
Oh, yeah.
slowly, has great tone. I could listen to him talk for ages.
I was ready to just
Yeah,
get
I was
comfortable.
like, read me a bedtime story, Paul.
I learned
You're putting
so
me there,
much
brother. Yeah.
from that
Right?
time with Polly.
My
Yeah.
God.
I'm taking notes.
Yeah, no, that's Paul's the best. All right, things we're looking forward to over the next couple days. Today we did have the repechage rounds of the 1500
We
and
did.
the 800, right? Today was our first day of repechage, right?
Yeah, 800 this morning, 1500 tonight.
I'm in on the repechage.
You and
I'm-
Michael Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in on it. As a consumer of the sport, I'm definitely in on it. I think the athletes have a bit of a different feeling on it.
Especially
but
the Australians.
yeah, it's a hard day for Australians. Really hard day. I mean, there were probably guys that we expected to get
Into the
through
final.
to the semis, and then hopefully two of them at least to get through to the final. But yeah, really hard. Yeah, I mean, I was talking about this, and it actually really touches on your point from earlier. But you know, these athletes put so much pressure on themselves, so much expectation, so much want to do well, and it was like a really hard situation for me because there was athletes that came through the mix zone from that repechage whose first reaction was like, I hope I didn't let my country down, or I hope I didn't let certain people down. It's flagged from social media comments and DMs and all this sort of stuff. So that was hard. It was actually hard to see them suffer, and then hard for them to suffer off the back of what people had said to them or how they think they're perceived. So it was a really hard moment for me. It made me really reflect, even as like a media person and a journalist, being like, wow, these are people who are trying their absolute best. So look, if you are someone who ever feels a need to DM an athlete, if you are someone who thinks an athlete performs for what your expectation is, they don't. And please don't message athletes, because it's a real dickhead move and you have no idea the effect it has on people. So it was really hard to see that, but exciting this morning. We had an Australian get through. That women's 800 meter semi-final is tomorrow as well. So heaps to look forward to, but I couldn't miss a moment to, just let the athletes breathe. Like, it's for them. It's not for you. So keep that in mind.
All right, so tomorrow we've got finals in the women's high jump, the men's hammer throw, and the men's 100. Caitlin, I'll go to you first. Men's 100. It's hard to do predictions when we don't even know who's going into the final. But gut check right now, presuming all the favorites make it into the final, which, like, the heat sheets are ridiculous right now.
I can't tell you who gonna win, but I can tell you who the finest man on that track is, and it's
All right,
Kishane
keep that.
Thompson.
All right. Reel her in.
Heck yeah.
She's flustered. She's flustered.
No, because I don't know who's gonna win, but like I know who's gonna be on the podium. though. It's gonna be
Give me a combination of who's going to be on the podium without
Noah,
like any order.
Kishane, and well, dang, now who's gonna be third?
Another American?
I liked how Fred looked
But then
there.
I also want Ferd to get a medal so
We're
bad.
not. We're
he
not in
was-
Kenya.
He was no.
We're not
he
in
was
Kenya
so
anymore.
sad last year when he didn't get a medal like in Budapest, and I was like, you know what, you deserve it, because every time I see you, all you do is smile. That is literally it.
He is the most positive guy out there.
Like, I
I'm
need
just
him-
leaning into everyone.
just-
Like it doesn't happen in any other sport where it's sort of like, oh, that guy always gets to the playoffs, the Yankees in particular, and for a long time, and they would get bounced in the first round for every single time. Or you get to the Super Bowl and that quarterback can't win or whatever it is. Omanyala can get to the final but just can't medal.
I think The thing is that I really do want a USA sweep, but the thing is that I don't think
It's
there is
hard.
a world where
Yeah.
Kishane is not on the podium. So we could have a situation where it was like today where we get 2 Americans and then 1 from another country, but like whether Kishane gets first, second, or third, he's on the podium.
Yeah.
Noah is also on that podium. Whoever that third spot is,
Yeah.
that is where the real fight is going to be.
Well, I feel like, Chris, you're on the Kerley train here. Talk to me about why maybe you think he's going to break into the top 3.
So is Mitch. Both of us
I'm
watched that
enormous
race.
on the Fred
he was
train.
in the toughest of the heats where he drew, let's see, Letibogo and who else is in that one? Zarnell Hughes. 2 of the medalists from last year. Fred just cruises through 997.
Yeah.
Coming into this, like I was just sort of like, what Fred Kerley are we going to get? Because he didn't race between the trials and here, and that's just Fred going back to work, and he's going to take the time to get his body right, show up to championships, and perform. It's a very similar plan that he's followed to 2021, and so I think he's ready to, you know, as he says it, like upgrade my silver to gold. I'm on the Fred train, and you know, Mitch is sitting right next to me on that train.
Yeah, I'm right there next to you. He looks so good. We're forgetting this guy, you know, as an Olympic silver medalist, world champion.
I didn't forget.
No, I know, but it's like it's easy to look at the last year naturally, as you should, because it's the closest thing to the games to be like, well, I don't know how Fred's gonna go. Like maybe it's moving past him. Maybe these guys are now hitting echelons that Fred can't hit. I reckon he is every bit the champion that he was a few years ago, with a new fire, with a new same personality, same Fred, but just this new fire underneath him. If you look that good in the heats against some of the best in the world, that says a lot. So I think Fred wins. He's my tip to
Wow.
win.
What do you
Wow.
think? What do you think he's gonna run to win?
I don't know how fast it's going to be. Like, it's clearly a fast track, but not outrageous. Like, you're not seeing crazy world records in every final, or you know,
Yet.
in fact, have America's 4x4 mixed team is the only one I think that's
And
broken
not
a world
even in a
record thus
final.
far. Yeah, in the heats. So, I mean, I think it's going to be fast. I think they're going to obviously run like at least low 9.8.
break the world record?
Yeah, no, they won't go near
No.
it. But I think at least low 9.8. Like, if not, it could go faster than that. Like, I don't know. But it's going to be close. Like, it's going to be a blanket to that finish line. I just think Fred is going to come out on top. I think if I had to give a 1, 2, 3, and God, I've been wrong on so many of these, but
Don't say it.
but I'll commit. Like, I think it's Fred just ahead of Kishane, and then Noah in third.
Wow.
Do you have
marginal-
Kenny on your
marginal.
podium?
You know, I love Kenny B. I want to put him on the podium, but I mean, you know me. I'm always going to go American sweep. I'm going to know nothing. Be like, American
God.
sweep. Totally. But no,
she really loves this country.
I
Yeah.
love contrary to everyone here. I love my
We have our
country.
flaws.
Yeah.
I'm just the only one who
I'm
can admit
dealing with
it.
some issues, man.
Fair, you know, it's a love-hate relationship. I want to be clear, but there's love. But I just think we may see something similar to the women's 100. I do think we might see maybe a little bit of a surprise. I don't know if I have Noah in top 1, maybe top 2. I'm kind of with you. I see him in that third spot, maybe second. But yeah, I mean that's where I'm putting him. And then you might have gotten me on the Fred train after all that.
Come on board.
Yeah, there's plenty
I mean,
of room on the
choo-choo.
train. I think it's like, it's not speaking down on Noah either, because I think this race is going to be incredibly quick. I don't know. There was something about the way that it was run today, and maybe the way that he spoke after the press conference, like, yeah, you guys should be scared. But the comments before that where he's like, I thought these guys were just going to respect me or like fall in line, or, you know, the pressure of the village I was hearing is starting to weigh on him a little bit, of people wanting to take photos and do all this stuff after sprint and become this big personality. This is a whole, loves the moment. He said that he struggled in Tokyo without the people. This is a whole new kettle of fish. This is now stepping into being the man. You're the man in the arena now. You want to be the person that people are looking at. That comes with its own pressures. So today didn't fill me with a great amount of confidence in the way that he ran it, where I'm like, he's going to run away with this. And I think when he gets challenged like that, and the conversation isn't Noah's, like we've seen in the 200, like we probably saw last year, it's like Noah's going to run away with this. That can present something hard to deal with. So I just think Fred doesn't actually give a shit about any of that. Like, I think Fred is just in Fred's world, and he said that so many times. He's like, you know, you said when you ran your first race, when you touch the track, you're gonna break a world record. I haven't touched the track. Like, he's in that sort of mentality. So, I just think he handles it a little bit better.
That's what's funny though, because like when Fred said that, and he was just like, I haven't touched the track yet, and it's like, well, you did, but like nobody like took him seriously. Like they just laughed. I'm like, y'all just have to do the same thing for Noah, because everybody's like, oh my God, he's so obnoxious. And all he does is talk. And I'm just like, here's the thing though, like part of it like is genuinely his personality, but the other part of it is like, don't take him seriously. And when I say don't take him seriously, it's not that I mean like just laugh him off and like not pay attention, but it's just like, it's not that deep. You know what I'm saying? Like it is that deep, but like, it's not that deep.
Serious.
So like when
he's
he
great
says
for the
things like,
sport.
oh, I'm going to break a world record, or like I'm going to get double gold, like obviously like he needs to take that seriously, because that is his job, that is his money, and that is his livelihood on the line. But us as fans who are not in his position, people that get mad about everything that comes out of his mouth, I'm like, I feel like you're just finding something to be pissed about, because like, why are you taking what he's saying seriously when you're not the one in his shoe? Because it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So
exactly
Caitlin, unpack
right.
these comments for me today. The ones that happened today, I put them out on Twitter shortly after Anderson was in the mix zone. He hands over the audio to me, and you know, I put it out that Noah said that he thought that the rest of the guys in the field would just what was it, yield it,
fall in line.
fall in line, and you know, he would take the win. Louis Hinchcliffe did not let that happen. The NCAA champion, he got the win.
Way out of line.
Hey, look.
But you know, everyone on Twitter, especially
Wow.
Jamaican
That
Twitter,
haircut, dude.
has been like,
You're like looking in a mirror.
yeah.
Shit, I wish. Yeah.
Every-
Where do I get that mirror?
Everyone on Twitter has been like, how disrespectful this guy. This guy needs to learn how to shut up and all that stuff. And
I
hate that.
you know, here's my thing. I think Noah sometimes is a little too fast for his own good when it comes to just like in these post race environments. Like his head is still spinning from that race, that he'll just talk, and like the way he delivers it and says it in the moment probably isn't how it comes off on, you know,
That's
when you read
why
it
I
out.
get confused when people don't have an issue when like Fred says that kind of stuff, because like, to be fair, like Fred is definitely like a more reserved individual. Like he doesn't like to talk, but like if you really put what Fred and Noah say like at face value and you don't know who's saying it, they say the same stuff.
Yeah.
Like Noah is going around saying that he wants the world record. Literally, the talk of the year last year was the fact that both Fred Kerley and Noah Lyles were like, well, I went double gold. It was literally the both of them. But everybody was only pissed when Noah was saying it, and they weren't pissed when Fred was saying it. And I was like, I get that y'all think that Noah is some big, crazy villain and he's annoying and he should shut up and all this other stuff. But like, I'm not saying that you have to like him. I mean, like, I love him. But like, I'm not saying that y'all have to like him. But why do y'all take him so serious?
Oh yeah, the people who get so upset over it, I'm like, it's not that serious,
Yeah.
guys.
It's really not.
At the end of the day,
No.
this is track.
Yeah. Also, I love the honesty. I think
Come on.
saying something like
Biggest
the,
sports out there.
the quote that we have up there. I mean, it's a stream of consciousness quote. Like, read it. It's like he's just like you said, Caitlin, kind of just regurgitating maybe, and even you, Chris, like just his thoughts post race. I mean, they catch you so immediate. I truly think he just maybe doesn't have the filter some people have to not be
Right.
so brutally honest about how they.
But it's
thought
like,
the
why
race
does he
went.
need to be?
Yeah. Well, here was the other thing too, is like, although someone did try and bait him, this didn't get it. Like, I didn't transcribe this part, but someone did ask him, "What are your thoughts on Kishane Thompson?" You know, they put the line out to try and fish for an answer. He just goes, "He's a good athlete." That was it.
That's
So, like,
respectful. I like
so
that.
he is aware, he's smart, and he knows when people are going to take the bait. It's sometimes when he just gets a little too excited. I think like a little comment or two slips by,
That's funny.
and it's like people get their panties up in a bunch about it. But also, may I just take one more swipe at the IOC here? Not allowing us to film in the mix zone
Ridiculous.
is also just sort of a fault here, because now this athlete is viciously getting attacked on social media over these comments that when you read them, they come off one way.
No
Yeah.
tone.
But when you watch the video,
But if you
it's
were to
like-
watch the video and how he delivers it, and you see, like, there is a little bit of a difference there in the tone of how it comes across. But you just see, sentences that end in a period, and then you just take it as like, whoa, what a bold statement. Like,
Yeah.
some of the things Noah Lyles says, like, you can't read. You have to you have to be able to watch and see how he expresses it. So, So this is also on the IOC.
But that's an interesting quote though, because I'll put my hand up. Like, I'd only heard the first part of that where he's like, I thought they'd fall in line. If you read the whole thing at the end, he's like, this is my first time running the 100. That's on me. I shouldn't expect that moving
Right,
forward.
that's
And
the
I
part
won't.
that people stop
so
reading.
so this is where I'll even put my hand up. It's like, I'm ripping Noah Lyles off that comment, being like, I don't like that, without even fully contextualizing his whole conversation
Yeah.
of him going like, I'm going to take ownership for the fact that this is my first
But
time
the
and I
other
didn't
half
do
of
it.
but the other half of the people that did read the whole thing, they were like, why is he acting like this is his first time in a major championship? Like, you literally won Worlds last year. You won the Olympic
Yeah.
trials. Like,
The Olympics are a whole nother
people are-
animal.
It's
you
the
know
trials
people are
aren't
just
the
gonna
Olympics.
fall in line. And
Yeah.
I'm just like,
I just love the photo of
Yeah.
him there. He just looks so happy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
it
the
was
people
like-
are just tearing him
I
apart.
think
Yeah.
I think he.
Was it Anderson tweeted the nice photo, and then I come in
Yeah.
from the clouds
He's
being
so
like, "Here's what he said,
sweet.
No, I
guys."
was like,
He looks
I'll
so
stop for
wholesome.
I'll stop for a photo for you. Yeah. And then he goes on Twitter. He's like, what the fuck? I thought that was a
think
pretty
he's
nice
a-
thing for me to do.
so
but
brutal.
okay.
Leave the guy alone.
I think he's
Not pausing
gravely
again.
like misunderstood, and not unlike some like emo like no Lyles is like so misunderstood. But it's just like I
Yeah.
think people like take him the wrong way sometimes, and I think if they looked at him more lightheartedly like they do Fred and like other athletes who like essentially say the same things or like have
Yeah.
the same
Yeah.
message behind what they say, then like people would be less pissed about like who he is.
People
Because
could-
also
yeah.
like Noah has been this way the entire time that he's been Noah. I don't know what the switch was at some point a couple of years ago where they were just like, I really hate this guy. Because at first they were like, I don't like him because he likes anime. But now it's like,
Which
I
is
don't like you
ridiculous.
because you like anime, you speak, and you have ambitious goals. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I also know that I sound like I'm just like really riding for this guy right now. But like sometimes on social media, like I get so confused, like when people are like so caught up in like what people or like what athletes are saying, because sometimes it's just genuinely like not that deep.
But then the
It's
other
not
and
that
then the
deep.
other
It's
flip
track.
side of that is that people will be like, they'll rip him. They'll be like, oh, I hate this guy's personality, rah, rah, rah. Then an athlete will come along that shows no personality and they'll be like, man, why doesn't this guy say more? Or like, why don't we
Yeah.
hear from him?
And
And then they
also-
open their mouth like, you can close it. I didn't like that. Can you actually not do that again? It's like, okay, well, what do you want? Like, what do you want him to do? You want him to show personality? You want him to be vulnerable? Or do you just want him to roll through a mix zone and be like, how was your race? Like, yeah, it was great. Like, I'm glad I made it through the final. And they're pulling teeth. They're like, give us more, give us more. It's just, it's like,
when I give you,
yeah, it's like,
if
it's
I
like,
tell you I want to break the world
like,
record,
I-
now I'm a stupid idiot.
yeah, like
So-
I don't necessarily love everything that I don't have to. I don't have to love everything Noah
Exactly.
Lyles says, but I love the fact that Noah Lyles is Noah Lyles. I don't necessarily agree with everything he says. Noah Lyles could be watching this right now. He's like,
He
that
is.
guy's a
That's the
fuckwit.
thing.
I don't
He
like
is.
what that Australian.
I don't like
I don't
that
like what
guy.
that Australian guy says, but at least he sticks to his convictions. At least not like
Yeah.
Noah's not changing, and I respect that. And I think you're right. Like I think Fred is very out there
Fred
when he
literally
wants to
says
be.
the exact same stuff. Like
Yeah.
I kid you not, if you put both of their tweets next to each other, you don't know who's
You know,
saying
that
them.
should
You
be
would
pretty
think it's
funny.
you would think it's the same person.
Well, side by side.
That would be pretty entertaining, wouldn't it? Like you
Make
just
a
blocked
BuzzFeed
out
quiz of like
you blocked
Noah
it out as
Lyles'
like whose tweet is this?
or
Yeah.
Whose
Fred
tweet
Kerley's
was
tweet.
it?
Sounds like
Whose
a morning
tweet was
show
this?
trivia game. Ooh, my wheels are turning.
Nah, you're on
So-
fire, Caitlin. I'm right with you.
Okay, so I know like we were talking about Sha'Carri earlier in terms of like how people are disappointed because she got a silver
my
medal,
God.
right? So like if Noah gets like bronze or silver and ends up winning the 200, do you think it's going to be the same atmosphere of like, well, but you didn't do it? Or like what do you think is going to be
Yeah.
the
What
aftermath?
would be the conversation?
So-
around it?
yeah.
I think, in all seriousness, I believe that if Noah comes away with the silver or bronze, he's going to be the most, he's going to be the classiest and like most respectful medalist of all three of them. He'll say like, my hat's going to go off to Kishane Thompson, Fred Kerley, whoever it is that wins. Online, the reception is gonna be like, "What a loser! Like he didn't get it done and all that stuff." Or like all that marketing dollars towards this guy, and he didn't close out the deal. I think Noah is in it for like one. If he gets the glory of the medal, then that's fantastic. Then like he continues to build his case as being one of the best U.S. sprinters, at least like in recent history and of his generation. If he doesn't, he has done so much for the visibility of this event.
Absolutely.
And bringing all these people in that, like, if it's like, okay, listen, I brought all these people who wanted to watch me win. Instead, they go off and see Kishane, Oblique, Fred, whoever ends up winning, that he's like, maybe I hope that some of the people that came and were fans of me will go on to learn more about these other guys and recognize that we are in a special time of the sport and that these are some of the best sprinters we've had in history. And the beautiful part about this sport is that maybe we're living in an era where it's not just one dominant guy like we had with Usain Bolt, and it was one guy winning each time out. Yes, that was special and that was awesome because he was breaking records constantly. But the thrill of competition and the fact that we're going into a final tomorrow with like a handful of guys who can come out with a win, that's more entertaining sometimes. And I think that Noah Lyles recognizes that. If he doesn't win gold, he's going to be okay. He's going to get his gold in the 200, hopefully. But no matter what, like, he's already made an impact at these games. And I think he's going to handle that really well. And, yeah, so I think... Yeah, he's watching this right now. I always think sometimes
he needs to be asleep.
He doesn't race until 8:00 tomorrow, I think it is. But so he's definitely up and watching this right now. I always sometimes think I'm like, Noah Lyles is gonna get upset for a tweet that I put out that all of a sudden got caught from Jamaican Twitter and it gets twisted and manipulated this way. But no, he doesn't ever get upset. He's never said to Sidious Mag like, I'm not talking to you guys, or I hated that graphic or anything like that, because it all plays into this grand scheme for tomorrow.
He's an emotionally intelligent guy.
He's a mastermind, and I think that's also something that people don't realize. I think people think that he's just arrogant and like wants all the glory, but like I feel like whenever we've ever talked to him about like the deepness of track and field and like how can we change the sport, he's just like, I could go on like a 3-hour long conversation with you right now and just tell you everything that needs to be fixed and how I can fix it, as if he could just write some entire manifesto about like how to fix track and field by tomorrow. And I think that's what people aren't understanding, that like he understands that like the only way to change track is to have the success behind it too. So like, yes, he fights tooth and nail to like be able to go after world records, to be able to go after double goals, to get a Netflix series, to make his own show, because he understands that like, if I'm not winning, y'all probably not going to listen to me anyway. Y'all still going to think I'm arrogant and think I'm stupid. So I might as well win. This helps me in my case, but then it also helps me get out the message of like making sure that everybody else in the rest of the sport gets popular as well. And not in a situation where like he takes all the credit and all the glory for it, because like you said, like if he loses, he's not gonna be like, well, they're a bunch of crap heads. Like I know like people didn't really like his comment in Jamaica when he did lose earlier this year, but like in general, I think he's going to be a very like respectful individual and like admire the people that could beat him. Because the other thing about him is that he works his absolute hardest to be the best, so he's gonna give respect to anybody else that is able to beat him, because it's like, well, you just beat the best, so like you the best too.
Yeah.
Great call.
Can't wait for Marcell Jacobs to win tomorrow when we haven't even mentioned his name.
Listen.
Yeah.
Who?
There's plenty of
No,
guys.
I watched the doc. I
First
watched
of all,
Sprint. I
there's-
know.
The Italians are gonna come get you after they throw their pizza party tomorrow
Yeah.
when Marcell Jacobs wins.
Oh man,
That-
well,
you don't
I'll be
wanna
there
piss
too.
them
I'll be
off.
like, hey,
Yep.
can I get a slice?
There's a lot of guys that you're gonna squeeze them into 8 into the final. Like there's gonna be some quality guys that miss here.
Let's see, Tabogo, we haven't said his name. Like,
Simbini.
That's the thing.
When Let's See Lay wins tomorrow, I want all of you guys to bow down to me.
Whoever wins
You didn't even
tomorrow,
pick him.
you didn't even pick. You just said, I
No,
like
but
these
still,
3.
I don't know
It's
what
like,
you're
great, I
talking
like
about.
9 of them. So
But
I'll
still,
see you
I mean, I'll
tomorrow.
bow down.
Yeah.
Everybody gets a gold medal.
I'll do it.
Yeah. It'll be
Eric
great.
out there?
Is Eric? Eric's in bed, dude.
Is Eric asleep or is he out there? Can we bring on Eric for a sec? Caitlin, thank you so much. We're going to swap in Eric
Well, that
because
was so
Caitlin.
quick. You're out. Did you say something?
Bye, guys.
Caitlin, you did great.
one last thing I want to touch on before we
Eric
get to
was in
tomorrow,
REM.
because it's going to be.
Eric's like,
Eric was mid-train.
it's past 10. You know the rules. It's bedtime.
It's,
What the hell?
it's 12:30
Hey.
here in Paris.
What are you doing? You're on the clock.
What the hell? It's bedtime. You guys are in my bedroom.
Get the hell out.
Yeah. You've overstayed your welcome, I think. What do you want to talk about?
You're like Anderson this morning. Ask me anything.
Ask
You're
me
ready.
any questions.
All right.
And
The 1500 meter semifinal heat sheets came out.
oh,
This
God.
is what I needed to wake you up for.
Thank God we've got you here.
Thank God I'm up. Lay it on me, brother.
Tell me what you think.
I will.
Wait, do we get to give an opinion? It's
right.
just the
No,
Chris
we
and
gotta
Eric.
stay silent.
Eric, sorry.
I mean, Eric's the heat sheets guy.
Yeah.
Um,
They zig or zag.
And he's apparently he's going viral online because he's prophetic. This one, heat one of the semifinals. And again, a reminder to people, first 6 in each
That
heat
looks
will advance to
pretty
the
good.
final. Brian Koeman, Robert Farkin, Josh Kerr, George Mills, Jakob Ingebrigtsen, Pietro
Wow.
Resse, Ermias Gurma, Cole Hawker, Federico Riva, Stefan Nielsen, Isaac Nader, Reynold Chariot.
They're back on their bullshit. Are you crazy?
They're at the river.
Yeah.
They're at the
Oh,
river.
man.
Back.
See,
So we're-
genuinely, how do they do that?
Everyone's been clamoring for Jakob versus Josh.
And the
And
heat sheets guys
got
are
it
like,
early.
we
I
might as
almost
well.
don't even know
Eve. Yeah.
who's in two.
I
I
actually
almost
really don't like. I really wish we got Jakob and Ja. I wish
Straight-
the first time
purely
that
in
they
the
met
final.
was just in the final.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mean not at pre?
No, like
at
just
the
in this meet. In
Oh.
this meet, I really think it would have been better build up if they don't race each other at all until
of
the
course.
final. So,
Right.
So does this change the dynamics of it? Like, are these guys going to run the slowest first 800?
I
They're
don't.
both trying to get to the
Yeah,
back.
I don't. That's really interesting. I don't know what. I bet I bet both of them will still run really slow. I don't think. I don't know. I don't necessarily. We haven't seen Jakob. He's not a guy that's necessarily like I need to win these heats. It's just qualify as easy as possible. I mean, he came through the line last in the prelim, fist pumping at third or fourth, whatever he was. He doesn't. It's just get in. It is. I mean, what is the top 6 make it through?
Yeah.
Top six.
Top six.
That's it. No time
top
qualifiers.
6. So it's like, and Cole's in there. Yeah, it is incredibly stacked.
You get
I do think it. Yeah, I bet it will. I bet it will be very slow. Or I mean, maybe it's not slow, but I couldn't see. Like obviously Josh Kerr isn't going to make it a fast race. I don't see why Jakob would make it a fast race. Leave it all for the final.
And in general, too, I think we're going to see a different Jakob that we saw in Budapest in the semifinal there, where he just was he was in dead last, started celebrating, and then famously, that's where Josh Kerr says, like, that's when I recognize that he's got like this weakness about him, that he needs the attention and all that stuff. And
Is that where it started?
that is where it started.
Wow.
Yeah, that he was like, I recognized in that moment that he wasn't the center of attention, and he needs to be, and so that's why he did all that stuff. And so then
Jeez.
Wow.
he came firm in the final.
Got him.
And so, yeah, I mean, I'm excited for this one. I wouldn't be surprised.
What's heat 2?
Yeah, Heat 2.
I'm like, I'm
Can't
up.
be much.
Oh, yeah, no, there's no one.
Timothy Chariot.
Yeah, he's good.
Hobbs
Never
Kessler.
mind.
Pretty
yeah.
good.
Wait, hold on.
Timothy Chariot, Hobbs Kessler, Charles Philibert Thibodeau, Niels Laros,
Pretty good.
Sam Multifera, Yard Nagus,
Pretty good.
Neil Gorley,
Forgot
Cathal
about every single
Doyle,
one of these guys.
Anaz Asai, Osama
Nordas?
Maselik, Narv Nordas, and Azadine Hobbs.
So I get
it's-
how they made the heat.
Yeah,
I get it. I get it.
No,
So now
but-
it makes sense.
Yeah, it does. When I'm hearing those names out loud, I do think for the theatrics, separate
Those two at
those two at
Those.
least. Come on, like
You could easily put
Yeah.
Jakob in here
Yeah, where
and
would you put him?
Well,
I mean, you could
I'd
literally trade out
I'd
any
switch
of
the
those
Norwegians.
guys.
Put Nordas in
Oh,
the
yeah,
first one,
perfect.
Jakob
Oh, the
in this
countrymen.
one.
Yeah, that's
Switch those countries.
that's actually
Yeah.
very easy. You should
Yeah.
be. I don't know how be on there, dude.
My phone's
Yeah.
available. I'm
Yeah.
free.
Right.
Not really.
I mean, we talk a lot of shit about the people that make the heat sheets. Have we figured out how they actually do? Because
No.
it's got to just be a simple like it's got to be an equation.
It's got to be like
You know it. It's the
bingo
zig
balls,
zag.
the big
like
roller thing, and they pull them out. They're
It's
like, oh,
all
there-
so.
Yeah.
Is it real? It's
Ball
all. It's
lottery.
all random. It's all
Or
like
is it like a
lottery.
murder board where they've got
It's crazy
faces and
because
string
it
and
is
They have to
something
have
that we
something.
should be able to get the
Should be
answer on.
easy.
It
It's
should
got to be like
simple.
fastest.
Yeah, there's
slowest,
gotta be, like, a
fastest,
thing.
fastest, slowest, and then
There's either got to be a thing or it's got to be
it's
completely
literally
random.
random.
Yeah.
I,
It's a
I love the idea
ChatGPT.
of having like like the Powerball.
Yeah.
Uh,
and it's like, all right.
all right. That would be
Shit. Josh
electric.
Kerr.
They should make it like
God.
mostly random and then give it an eye test and say,
Yeah.
does this make sense? at all?
That's the final
Yeah,
test.
no, I like that. Yeah.
because it's like, oh, we put this into a completely random generator, and this is what it came out. You go, well, it doesn't. It almost makes sense, but it doesn't quite make sense. Let's just switch out a few. And you're like,
Chat.
that's actually
It's
perfect.
in ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, can you make 2 semifinals for me from the following data? It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, here you go.
ChatGPT.
Perfect.
And they're like, do you want it to
Yeah.
be like completely random, or do you want it to make a lot of sense and be exciting
Right.
and all this stuff? And you're like, oh, actually, the second sounds really nice. Like, okay, yeah, just let me know. You've got to put those things in the chat GPT.
Otherwise, it doesn't know.
Otherwise,
Otherwise
it doesn't
spits
know.
out
Yeah.
random stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Dr. Chart.
All right, so that pretty much guarantees that we're gonna be in for an exciting. Well, either big surprises tomorrow, where someone big gets left at home, or.
I mean, someone big is going to get left. Like, I feel like that always happens. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, people are. I'm surprised with who didn't even make it to these semis. And you're like, we're listing off these names. Every one of these guys is really talented, and you could see them not just like making the final, but like doing very well in the final.
Yeah.
Not everyone has a realistic shot at medaling, but all those guys, like any one of those guys, you're like, oh, if you were to say like any one of those guys came in 5th,
Yeah.
you'd be like, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I believe that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Chat GPT's like, no doubt.
yeah. I already did that. Yeah.
I
I
already saw
already
it.
written that out.
Yeah.
That was
We
already
knew.
done. Yeah.
Okay, so if Heat 1 tends to be a little bit more tactical, it does go out slower, say with Josh and Jakob. How do we see Heat 2 going, knowing that happened?
Well, but this is the thing now.
There's
It's
no
like there's no
times,
little
there's
cues,
no
so
little
it
cues.
does
Reason
like
to make it
because they'll have
fast.
6 automatic each. Like maybe the guys. I mean, I feel like the tactics, they'll just, whoever the kickers are, want it to be slow, whoever needs to pull from the front, like maybe some of those guys that just scraped through in the heats, or even the guys that went and ran the repechage this morning might just be like, my only chance is to get out and find some real estate, because I'm clearly not going to have a kick after running 2 1500s, so maybe I need to get out in front and push the tempo. Maybe that's the way, but because there's no small cues, it'll be each race for their own, just getting that 6.
Prediction: do any of the repechage survivors end up making it into the
Only
final?
one guy that I think maybe can get in there is George Mills. He was in
Yeah.
the repechage this morning.
Why so? He just looked good.
He's had a good year. Like George Mills had a good year. He's one of those guys that just fell out of luck or maybe tactical luck in the heats. Got through the repechage today. Looked pretty good over the final 200. Obviously, it takes a lot out of your legs. And like Stewie said it in the mix zone, he was like, mate, it's going to be hard for someone to get through to the final. He's like, I think he said, like, I hope that one of them proves me wrong. Like, I hope there is somebody in that final. But to run 1500, 1500, 1500, 1500, like, it's hard. So maybe Mills is probably the guy that I think would be the most likely from the repechage, but I think they might be in for a bit of a hard journey tomorrow night.
No,
Mills look good, but the Irishman who won the first.
Oh,
heat,
yeah.
Cathal Doyle.
Cathal Doyle
Yeah.
looked really good, and that was a bit slower. I think it was like 2 seconds slower.
Yeah.
Which does make a difference when you have no day, like there's no days in between, because Mills had to run 3:33.
333 to get through.
I just realized George Mills is also doing the 5K.
Shit,
Oh,
this
wow.
guy is going to be
Dude
absolutely
loves
cooked.
running, man.
So does Stefan Hassan.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
I'm excited to see how the repechage.
Repechage.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're kind of reverting.
Repechage.
Mitch,
Yeah,
back
I've
to
gone
your
back. I
old
mean,
ways.
it's too hard. It's too
It's
hard.
It's going to be exciting to see.
French isn't for me.
I'd love to see multiple of these
Repechage
guys
survivors?
make it through. And there's the guys that did make it through. are talented. Like I wouldn't be surprised to see multiple make it.
Yeah.
These guys should be branded with a big R.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like,
let's
you know-
brand these guys.
Yeah,
Let's brand them
that's-
like cattle over here.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
They made it through.
Can't do that.
They made it through. That's your
Yeah.
mark for life.
Yeah.
Watch
Yeah.
this guy.
I'm
They're
interested.
like, I think
Like
I just rather
60
get on
years
the
old,
plane.
yeah. Like, why do you have
They're
that
like,
huge
come here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like you
well,
wouldn't believe it,
you-
but back in the day,
I
I
don't
ran this
know.
Right,
It was
reportage,
a weird time back then.
and yeah, it was
They-
crazy.
Just for doing it, they get branded. Not even if they make it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Just for doing it. Well, I'm.
No.
No,
If
no.
they make, if they
Oh,
make
they
it.
How
gotta
about
make it.
no, you get
No,
branded?
I thought you
don't
got branded
make it.
if you
Don't.
No, I,
just because you were in the reportage.
Right.
That's why you got branded.
if you're in the reportage,
Yeah.
and then,
In the
and then you
zhuzh.
do survive it, you
Right.
don't get branded. Everyone else branded.
Oh, so you get knocked out tomorrow? It's like, come over here. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
No, everyone who today,
It's like-
like Mills doesn't get the brand.
No, but everyone
Everyone
else.
else.
The Aussies
Yeah.
are getting branded.
Aussies are branded, unfortunately. Yeah, you got
This is
reputation.
getting-
You got the
Like-
zhuzh.
Yeah.
Come get the zhuzh.
This is like Squid Games.
Come
Wait,
get,
like,
come get
Yeah.
judged.
Come
Scary.
get zhuzhed.
This is someone in
very scary.
someone in the chat said, "Get the Olympic rings tattooed with an R down the middle."
Oh, yes. W's in the
Does he
chat.
want a job?
Good comment.
W's.
All right,
What?
Eric,
No.
that was that was
go to
great.
bed now.
All right, good night. No. What else are you guys gonna talk about? Yeah. I'm up now. We might as well talk.
The only man in track and field who could roll out of bed and then just spit out some 1500 analysis. Eric Jenkins. All right. That does it for another night of Torch Talk here, Cities Mag live from Paris, presented by A6. I'm excited. There's just been plenty of surprises the first 2 days. We've got 6 more. No, wait. How many more days is this? 8
Eight.
more? 8 more days of
Eight
this.
more days.
Yeah.
Can't be right.
Technically,
Lock
I want to say we
in.
are on day 3 per the schedule, but for the track and field events, we are on day 2. So it might get a little confusing if you're matching it up to like a schedule you found online. I
Or the
did.
Cities Mag schedule on our pinned
Exactly.
Instagram.
Seen you forgot about day one.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We've been
All
full
right.
sending it.
That does it, everyone. Good night from Paris. J'adore l'athlétisme.
I'm not saying it.